Hey guys, and welcome back to Content is Profit. Today, special treat with Fonzie in the house.
Let's go.
Welcome back, Fonzie. We had to trick him. We had to tell him that a customer was coming and he had to fill in, and then the customer didn't show up.
They randomly didn't show up.
They randomly didn't show up. It was all a lie to get him here. But here, Fonzie, tell me what you think about this. Ready? Trust doesn't take time. Trust takes clarity. The fastest to clarity wins. Welcome to episode 644, baby.
Let's go. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah. Mostly because I proposed the topic, but
You did. We're also unveiling a new producer, agent, assistant that I've been working on the last couple episodes. So it's like Fonzie's first interaction, and he's like, "I like how you call him. Let's go, baby." And
yeah, he calls the AI thing baby. I was like, that's kind of weird, but all right, you do you.
It was more like the event, let's go, baby, let's go. Okay. Anyways, all right. So, we're the core idea is how do we build trust online, right? I think that has been a topic, not only on
why do we need to build trust?
What do we build? Yeah, that has been a question for not only the community but also ourselves, right?
Yeah, I mean, in the space that we're at, trust is critical to sell. Especially if you're selling high-ticket services, coaching, consultancies, whatever it is.
Yeah,
you need trust. I mean, regardless of the product that you're selling. So, how do you build it as fast as possible, right? Like some people struggle with very long sales cycles, right? Some people have been posted for very long periods of time, and maybe they haven't seen the returns that they wanted, and they're like, "Well, am I not building trust?" Right? And trust is needed for the transaction, right? Like somebody's not going to buy anything if they don't trust you to deliver that solution. Mm-hmm. And if they don't know exactly what it is that you're doing for them, right? So that's why we have that little formula: trust equals clarity plus certainty, right? Like clarity of the problem and certainty of the solution. And that's the premise of this episode. If you're stuck in there, long sales cycles, or maybe you believe your content is not producing enough trust for you to have conversations with the people that you can help, then this is the episode for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a common thing, especially today, right? Like we see huge amounts of distrust, not only in our industry, but in general, also specifically with AI generated type of content that you see out there. We did an episode on this, on our opinion about AI agents almost delivering the content for you, right? Like all these people are like, well, you don't have to record ever. Like your clone will deliver the content. We you can go check the episode out about what we think on that. And I think today more than ever, this is a big element that not only big brands but any creator needs to put probably as a priority in their process.
The other day, I actually saw a post, very interesting, talking how some bigger brands are now having to prove that their commercials are not AI generated. And I thought that was pretty interesting, right? So now they're recording behind the scenes of all these ads that they're making to show people that is not AI made. Yeah. And I think it's just because at the end of the day, human effort has value in it, Absolutely. Right? And we've talked about it, yes, there's value to AI, use it as a tool, but not personally, don't use it to, create the content for you, do all the scripting and all this stuff. You still gotta flex that brain and those muscles. But again, it's a very useful tool for many things. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting that big brands have to prove that. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure it's the same, right? At least, for example, I have the reaction when I see a piece of content and I start reading and I'm like, this is 100% AI generated, right? Some of the phrases is a dead giveaway. Or even if the video, I'm like, this looks very weird, I think it's AI generated. Immediately I lose trust and I go on to the next thing. So
a little bit of a side note here, but I think this will be relevant and interesting. We submitted a bid to go and speak on the new HubSpot event, Unbound. They changed the name, by the way, if you haven't checked it out. And it's almost we pitched the idea of a face-off a cage fight between AI generated content and and human content, right? And I think on when we submitted the idea of this experience, it's not like a keynote; it's basically an experience. I was probably thinking more on like the quality of the output, but I think now that we're talking about this topic is how much trust that can generate, right? And I think there's the argument of even besides beyond AI. It's like whatever piece of content that whatever way it's written, like from my voice, from your voice, from Fonzie's voice, is it actually solving the problem that I'm looking to solve ultimately, right? And if you have enough points of contact with like positive points of contact where you're solving my problems, is that allowing me to trust you more? And eventually, if it's a business, to purchase from you, or if you're a creator, to watch more of your content, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's what we're trying to solve, and that's the equation, right? Trust equals clarity plus certainty. So now we're gonna do a little bit of
I wanna touch a point here, right? Which is maybe a misconception or how people might be confusing this, right? Probably you've seen the stat gets quoted a lot where it's like it takes like 12 different touch points to convert somebody into a customer, right? And it might not be.
I think today is way higher than that.
Who knows, right? I don't remember the exact number, but it's pretty high. And you see that and you're like, wow, how am I going to get them 12 times, right? And I think this is where the speed part comes in. Like by 12 doesn't mean you have to show in 12 different platforms and they got to see you, right? They don't got to see you on YouTube. They don't got to see you on Instagram. Like it's a matter of how can I catch their attention and then be fast enough to immediately have that interaction that speeds that engagement, right? And that's one of the topics that we're going to be talking about, because they could see, a good example right now is those posts on Instagram that use ManyChat that people comment, and then immediately they get their resource. That is a cue for you to immediately reach back for a next touch point and then have a conversation. And if you have a conversation that spans, 5 to 10 messages, like those are your touch points, and you did them all within an hour, 2 hours, right? Like that is a pretty good opportunity.
Yeah.
So I just want to give that to frame the fact that it's like you don't need 12 different pieces of content to be creating this trust, right? Yeah. It's a matter of like, how can I obviously show people that I can solve, that I can help them, get them interested, and then engage in those conversations as fast as possible.
Yeah, I think a lot of the conversation also, like common quotes on this topic will be like, trust takes time, right? So well, time is relative too, right? Because it could be a very intentional time, like Fonzie was saying in that description where, I immediately interact and we're in the right time, right moment to solve that person's problem, right? And I'm perfect. And they move to the next stage, right? But maybe it's somebody that, we met, 6 years ago, and then they weren't quite there yet. But then because we've stayed in touch with them, could happen. Now there's going to be a mix of those in your funnels, in your sequences, right? So how do we, tackle those two things, clarity and certainty, right? So let's define them, right? Like clarity is, they understand what you do. And I think like that's something that I think we're still working on that, right?
And understanding what you do, they understand the problem that you solve.
Yeah. Somebody's calling Fonzie. It's a popular guy.
That's not my phone.
That's not your phone?
I think it's a studio phone.
That's a studio phone. We're popular here. All right. And then certainty is they believe you can deliver it for them, basically.
Yeah. And it's a certainty of result, right? Like, what is it that you can do for them? Are they clear on what they're going to get on the other side? So if they're clear and certain that you can also provide that result, like trust increases. And there's multiple ways to do this, right? I'll start with this. The probably most common one, not sure how much people actually use it, but it's literally like a cheat code, is referrals. Yeah. Like if you have somebody that has gotten some sort of results with you, or somebody that knows you and trusts you, and they refer you to somebody else, like, hey, you need to work with these people, right? You are building trust immediately, right? Like you're doing that extremely fast. So as for referrals, as for conversation, people that hey, do you know anybody that needs X, Y, and Z? That's where the clarity happens, right? You are clear on the problem that you're solving. You can express it, right? And for who you can solve it.
Yeah.
And then you're asking for those referrals. And that is the fastest way to build trust. You probably won't need all the 20,000 touch points.
Yeah. I mean, I just saw a video earlier this morning with Russell Branson's interviewing this lady, and the caption said $1 million. I think they were doing $1 million a month just based on referrals. No funnel, no ads, no nothing,
Wow.
right? Like very specific problem that they're solving for that specific period. And when they ask the question, so how are you getting this? It's like through referrals. They do a good job. They solve the problem. And then that person tells the next person and the next person and so on. So it's super, it's key. I think it's one of the key things, especially when people are starting out. It's like, okay, that you just share a story. I think it's like the results on your praxis coaching program, right? Like, and I was like, well, they're having these amazing results. It's like, great. Are they happy? Yes, they're happy. Okay. Have they introduced us to somebody else? Right. And it's like one of those things that we, have to keep in mind as well and do the ask.
Yeah. But let's say you don't have any friends or, you don't have anybody that,
or you're a little shy
that can refer you. Right. Then the question is, okay, well, how do I build trust with people that doesn't know me? Right. And then that's where it comes. Okay. Clarity of what is the problem that you're solving. You got to be clear on that. What is the problem that you're solving? Who you can solve it for as well. You got to be clear on that. And then you got to be relentless on sharing that message.
Well, based on that example, you were just sharing earlier with me, it was like the customer that you were helping, there were like 3 lanes of topics, right, that they could talk. And I think you guys decided on just one of those topics. Mm-hmm. And after the focus they started just creating for that, it exploded, right? Like clarity came through the screens, right? And people are like, oh, I understand now. And that was a way into their world. And I think you mentioned they have like 700 new contacts on their email list and the different like positive things that happen in their business moving forward. Yeah. So awesome.
Yeah. So we've talked about this before, right? Like quality of the message over quality of the production. And this is what aligns with, right? So do a self-audit, right? Is my problem that I solve clearly stated? Like, can I state this in a single sentence for people to know, right? What problem we're solving? And then who am I doing this for, right? Again, can you do that in a single sentence? If you have that, we can move to the next piece and talk about solution.
Yeah. So, I mean, is that a little bit of like these 3 levers here? Specificity, right? Like the more specific we are, obviously. And I think like this is personally like being transparent here, how I personally struggle with, what we do a little bit, because we have on the agency side a production product, but also inside of production, there's many things that we can do there. That we have the podcast studio. So that's very, podcast specific, but at the same time we have the community, right? So it's like, okay, removing the friction on your process or helping you creating opportunities through the content. How is that done? Well, what is that process? So we're also doing this exercise as we move forward with our own company and our messaging to make sure that we can be very, very specific. Like yesterday, for example, the call that I had inside of Business Creator Club, she didn't have a problem on the monetization side of it. Her problem was the friction was on the research. She was spending way too much time in the research, right? But the message that attracted her was like, okay, let's remove the friction so you can be more effective and ultimately create more money and save you time and save you resources, right? So I think like that's part of like what you also have to try do if you're listening to this is like, how do you actually find that? And that could be through conversations that you have with, different people that you could, reach out to.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at specificity, this is one of the principles that we talk a lot about with the people that we help in Praxis or in Content Momentum, right? And the whole idea is to make it relatable to somebody, right? Or if you're sharing results, be specific about it rather than saying, I help this type of people grow their business. It's like, no, I've helped this person grow from, 60K subscribers to 200,000 subscribers on YouTube, right? For example. But also by being specific, people can relate and they can put themselves in those shoes and they're like, oh, wow, like he's talking to me. I have that problem. So I would reframe this as specificity of the problem. If you're creating content, like how specific can you get and solve a very specific problem? And by very specific problem, I'm not talking, hey, this is how you get more conversations in Instagram. No, I would even go, narrower than that, right? And I would just trying to go off the cuff right here, but I would just think about, okay, I would ask myself, what is the problem that is not causing me get more conversations? All right. And then you go a layer below that. And then, okay, what is the problem that is causing that? And I go a layer beyond that. And I just keep asking until I have such a small, tiny problem. It's literally step one. Like you're just solving a step one for somebody. And that is going to help the person see themselves in their result easier than if I give them a 90-day plan. If I create a reel that says, hey, this is your 90-day plan for your content, to turn your content into profit, that people are going to be like, damn, like that's overwhelming as heck, especially in like a 90-minute reel.
Yeah.
But if I tell them, hey, this is the exact hook that you're going to use on your next piece of content and see how your engagement is going to increase 5x. That's a change that they can literally do after they're done with this. And by them doing that and getting the result, guess what? You are giving them clarity on the result, right? Certainty on the result, clarity on the problem that you're solving. And that is going to increase your trust. Yeah. So with specificity, we're talking about narrowing down on very simple problems, step one problems that you can help them solve right now to build trust as fast as possible.
I mean, 2 episodes ago, we published about, we're trying to talk about solving the problem of AI sounding generic, right? Like right now, everybody and their grandma is using AI for different things, right? Especially in our world. And one of the problems is like, well, AI sounds very general. Well, how do we solve that? And that was a specific problem for that episode 632. Go back, you can see it. And the resource that we put in there was a specific process that you can put it, you can do it yourself anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour, and it solves that problem for you, right? So like that, in our specific case, for me, it was mind blowing because we tend to be very general we have been very general with the show because we bring a lot of guests and different things, but now we're honing down on this specificity with the content. And keep in mind that falls inside of one of the levers that we talk about every single day. But that solves that very specific problem within your messaging, for example, right? And then there's different elements that we can do. So those are countless ideas that we can, turn into a clip, into a full podcast episode, into a lead magnet, into a different thing. So if you have any questions, obviously, businesscreator.club, you can join in there. We have office hours. And then obviously, you can jump on the challenges that we do all the time. So there's 2 more that we really want to talk about.
Well, I actually wanted to skip the second one, but the second one we've mentioned it right now, which is just be real, right? At the end of the day, it's like people do connect to your energy, right? At the end of the day, and a lot of the messaging is we've said this plenty of times, is the transfer of energy, right? If I'm here in the mic and I sound like this and I'm all nervous while I'm talking, and I don't really have confidence in myself, like that translates to the other side, and people are going to be like, well, they're talking about these problems, they don't have confidence at all. Like there's a mismatch in there, right? And sure, it's going to take time to build that confidence, right? You're going to have to probably do some inner work to, probably present yourself and give off the right energy. But a lot of content is just that energy that you're giving off. I think right now, so far, I haven't seen AI be able to replicate that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, too, it's like if you see something that is not real, and then let's say you jump on a call with somebody and they're not that, like that doesn't match immediate lack of trust. Yeah. Right. So make sure you're aligned on that sense.
I mean, I think with us a little bit easier to recognize, right? Because maybe we don't speak perfect English, and maybe AI clone of ours might have like our tone, but it will probably speak a very good English. When I've tried to clone my voice for like different price and different things, so you just test out the tools, it almost sounds like me, but it's not me, and you can really tell, and it's hilarious because you're like, wow, like this is one of the reasons why I don't want to use this. But let's say you're one of those persons, you adapt that and you're trying to, you're doing it and getting your results. My recommendation is try to mix it with different, like these brands are doing behind the scenes type stuff. Maybe you go live and you answer some questions. Like, what are the layers of content? At the end of the day, it's an experiment, right? Like, what works for you might not work for us, and that'll be good if you have a case study that you're like, Luis, what you guys are saying is completely wrong, and I'm doing it this way, and it's working for me. We would love to hear from you, right? Like, we'll come to the show, let's talk about this. But it's like, what are the layers that we can do? But in our personal experience, that authenticity, or being real has helped us massively. Because we are all unique people. And when we show it, not only here on the content, but also in person, you're consistent with that, then opportunities open up, doors open up, because immediately, like, the human in you, the mind will say, I can trust this person because it's the same across all the channels.
Yeah, it's coherent.
It's coherent. All right. The last lever as we, close out the show. This element is very important, right? Speed of response. I think this is more of a tactical thing.
I would change it to more of a speed of engagement, right? Which is, whether you're in an in-person event or, this is happening online, how fast you get, and we mentioned this earlier, right? You get to have that conversation with somebody. You can get those touch points, in 30 minutes, in an hour, you can, and you can build trust really, really fast. So, for example, if you're in a live event and you meet somebody and they turn out to be the exact same person that you help, how fast can you engage with them into solving a step one problem that they may have, and then leading that conversation into what is the next logical step that they need to take to work with you and how you can help them with their bigger picture, right? Yeah. Now, how does that happen online? Well, you create a step one problem clip, and then the people that interact with it, you don't wait. You reach out to them and you create that conversation. Sure, some people are not going to answer. Some people will answer. And then you get to have that conversation as fast as possible with them to build trust, right? And you offer them, hey, okay, you had this problem. Usually this is a sign of either A, B, or C. Which one are you in right now? I'm on A, they tell you. Okay, well, I have this thing that can help you solve A. Here's how you do it. You build more trust. And then they're like, wow, this person's actually helping me with my problems. I was like, how else can they help me? And then you can move them on to, a sales call and try to get them into your program or whatever it is that you're selling. So that's what I'm talking about, speed of engagement. And again, this is, you might be listening to this and you're like, but I don't want to have to engage that much. And sure, like that is also a possibility. Like my brother said, it's not a one size fits all solution. But a lot of the people, that listen to this show, you are not at a spot that you can automate things. You need to know the message as well. You need to do the manual work at some point. And then you're like, oh, okay, like people are answering a lot to this. This is working. Now you automate that part of the process and you focus on the speed on the next part of the process, right? Yeah. But I think, just the whole, which I love it. I love the message. We love, the whole ClickFunnels community and Russell Brunson. Like, we learn a lot from them, but the whole, you're one funnel away and trying to automate everything at certain times, I think it can be a little bit detrimental, because what you want to do is you want to have data of, okay, step one works before trying to automate step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? Like, make sure step one works and then you automate that one and then go on and move on to step 2. Make sure that one is working and then you can automate it and do the other one. So now if you're at a spot where those steps are working, sure, you can try to automate them and then you can remove yourself a little bit of the process. But I think that speed of engagement would be a little bit slower.
Yeah. I think it's so important to just be in touch with, that side of the business, especially if you're having those conversations, because like that will give you not only material for more content, but it also give you material about the type of people that you're attracting. And then you're going to be able to pivot and adapt your messaging faster, right? Like just this morning, I was watching a video with Dan Martell, right? And he's saying that one of the myths of, today is go model a company that works, for example, right? So if you're going to build like a carting company, then you're like, well, Tesla sells cars. Let me model what they're doing. Well, corporate is very different. Like they have tools, they have people, they have systems, they have something else for a different level. And then a lot of people, what they're doing now is like they're starting their own businesses or they want to grow their businesses and they look at those bigger companies and it's completely not relatable at all, because there's two completely different things. And by being on the ground and by talking to the people and by, asking those questions and by, being not only authentic, but also speed and fast on communicating like that, you're going to get that information that then will help you scale further, because you're working on your messaging, you're working on your consistency, you're working on your authenticity, and you're going to be able to pivot really quick on that. So you can feed your AI agents all that information as you're collecting it, and then they'll have that context, which is what we've talked about in the last 2 episodes of the podcast.
So what can you do to improve your specificity, right? Your realness, and then your speed of engagement? Quick audit on each one, right? On specificity, ask yourself, am I solving way too big of a problem in the content that I'm trying to create, or I'm solving step 1 problems, right? These narrow, smaller problems. If the answer is these pieces of content I'm creating are solving problems way too big, we need to make them a little bit more specific. If you have narrow problems, then good job, keep doing that, and then check how's the response rate and all that stuff. How do we check on if we're being real? You got to do a self-audit. Obviously, if you're creating AI content, I don't know, look yourself in the mirror, have a conversation. Why don't you want to show up in screen, whatever. But if you are showing up in front of the camera and maybe, you feel a little bit of internal turmoil with yourself when you're talking on camera, you don't feel confident, ask yourself, why is that? Maybe some fear of rejection, some fear of success, who knows? But you're going to have to look internally, ask yourself those questions, write them down, and then make sure you keep those in mind at the time of making content. Because guess what? Nobody cares that much at the end of the day. So the next one, speed of engagement. Again, you're going to make an assessment. How fast am I responding when I get comments, when I get DMs? How fast am I engaging with people? Do I have already an automated process that, is lacking traffic? Nobody's getting to it. Okay, why is that? Back up to step 1. Why are people not coming into my funnel? Why are they not engaging, right? Why am I not having conversations? Ask yourself those questions and then put, step 1 solution in there. At the end of the day, it comes back to looking at yourself, making a little bit of an assessment, and then trying to fix those things one step at a time.
Freaking love it.
Yeah, I like this phrase over here, which is trust is an output of your system. And I agree. I think trust is an output of, again, how fast you can deliver that clarity and that certainty. And I think a lot of people just take way too much time, right? Or just because people tell them they have to create content, they rush the process and they start creating content without any clarity, and they deliver no certainty at all, right? But if you do the work at first, right, you invest some of your time on the front end into figuring out what is the clarity, what is your clarity? Who are you serving? What problem are you solving? And then certainty, what is the result that you're giving them? That's going to go a long way, and be able to communicate that clearly. That is very, very important.
Love it, man. Who wants Fonzie back in the show a little more often? Just saying. Yeah, some fire we got to extract. So, we talked about these levers, right? But there's still something underneath, specificity, proximity, and speed. There's 3 beliefs that your audience needs to hold before they ever buy. And that's what we're going to be talking on the next episode. I'm stoked. This is part 2. So let us know. Do you like these new formats? Do you like what we're talking about? We're doing a big effort on being a little more specific on the things that we started sharing here. And is pushing us in an interesting way on how we create our own stuff, and then how we also interact with our customers, right? I was of the school of like, let's just create, right? And that has been a battle that internal as well. I mean, lack of processes could also be part of it, and like specifics to me, but also, content is evolving and we're trying new things, and let's see how it goes. So If you like this episode, please let us know in the comments, whether you're on YouTube or on Spotify or on Apple. Send us a DM at BeastBrosCo. If you want to be part of the community, we meet up every Friday, businesscreator.club. Right now, still for founders. It's so cool, the people that we're meeting there. From all backgrounds, we have lawyers, we have newsletter writers, we have coaches, it's so fun. So anyways, businesscreator.club.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing, because you were talking about, just creating content. I don't think there's anything wrong with, there's a stage for each one of these things. And I think at first, just creating content and just getting out there is going to build the skill and build that muscle.
Yeah.
And it's needed, but it does get a point where there's like this diminishing returns that you're like, I've been posting for so long, and I'm not seeing the results that I wanted or any sort of results. And I think that is the point where you need to start looking at the problem in a different way. Because again, definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. If you just I'm just going to keep posting content, but you don't see the results, like posting more is not going to be the solution.
Unless you really like posting content and have no goal related to it.
Sure.
Well, sure.
But right now we're talking with the goal of growing your business, right? So if you get to that point of diminishing returns, I would encourage you to, again, step back, assess the problem, and then say, okay, I build a muscle of consistency. I know I can do this. But now what are the things that I need to change or do a little bit different in my content to try to drive that result that I want? So again, obviously pat yourself on the back. Great effort of being consistent and putting yourself out there and publishing the content. But now it's time to tackle the problem from a different angle so we can get the results that we want.
Cool. All right, guys, come hang out in the community, businesscreator.club. If you go there, download the context documents. They're going to be right at the top. If it changes, let us know, because they're just log in. There's going to be a vault with all the resources that we share. It's going to be right there. And then, Fonzie, I don't know, is there anything that you want to add before we say goodbye?
No, we'll see you in the next episode.
Yeah. See you later. Take care.
Yeah.